Welcome to the Fallen State. I'm Jesse Lee Peterson. Thank you so much for being with me. America is divided over same-sex marriage and transgender laws. My guest today is Tamika Buckler, co-chair of the National Center for Lesbian Rights. She received her JD from Stanford Law School in 2009. Thank you so much for being with me.
Thanks for having me.
So you're a lawyer.
I'm a lawyer by training, but I no longer practice law.
Are you a Christian?
Yes, I was raised in a black family. My grandmother, every time I talk to her, tells me how she's praying for me.
She's praying that you overcome that?
No, she's just praying that I'm safe out here. She thinks LA can be a little crazy.
How does God feel about homosexuality?
He created me, and if he didn't want me to be this way, then I imagine he wouldn't have created me this way.
I agree that God created us. Do you believe that God created homosexuality, the spirit, the sin of homosexuality, or did some type of trauma happen to bring that on?
I can't speak for everyone, but in my life there was no trauma that brought it on. I was raised by both of my parents. My dad was in the military. I traveled the world. I had two parents who loved me, who were always there for me, who coached my teams, who always showed up at school. I was a great student. Obviously, I got into Stanford Law School, and I think he created me to be a strong black queer woman, and I don't know that I believe it's a sin.
There are Christians who disagree with homosexuality. There are Christian bakers who refuse to bake a wedding cake and participate in a same-sex wedding, and they're now being fined and punished for that. Should a Christian private business be forced to participate in a so-called same-sex wedding?
We can all agree that anybody who's being discriminated against the law is wrong. And
but if you have a private business, if you wake up one day and you decide, I'm going to start my own business. I'm going to use my money, my energy, my time. Shouldn't you have the right to discriminate against whomever you want to? Because it might not be good for you financially, but you do have a right who you can serve.
Going back to my grandmother, who grew up, in South Carolina at the height of racism, there were private businesses who told her she could not sit at the lunch counter. There were private businesses who told her she could not drink from their water fountains. And there were people who stood up and said that was wrong. You have to respect the law, and if the law says you cannot discriminate, then you should not discriminate.
But even in those days when your grandmother and others were forcing private businesses to service them, they were wrong for doing that, because no one has a right to impose upon a private business. So even back then, I thought that was wrong. And I grew up under the Jim Crow laws. I remember the colors-only signs, but I've always thought that if I own a business, I have a right to service who I want. No government or anyone else should be able to tell me who to service.
And so I guess that's one of those issues where we just fundamentally disagree. Like, I think...
Let me ask you this, is it right to do that? For a group of people to force you with your own private business to service them if you don't want to?
I think it's right. Once we as a country say there is a law, I think it is right for people to respect that law. And often that means you cannot discriminate against other people.
What I don't understand about and it's mostly radical LGBT people, they are going around the country and they are looking for Christian businesses and organizations to impose themselves upon. What is wrong with them that they think they have a right to do that and the Christians don't have a right to fight back? Why? I don't see them doing it to Muslims or Jewish businesses. What is wrong with them that they think they have a right to impose upon Christians?
Well, for me, I think it's a hard question to answer because I don't think it's a good question. I think the premise I don't know that I agree with it. I don't know what a radical LGBT person is. You have cases, and cases come from real life incidents. And I think that more times than you have so-called radical folks, I think you actually have folks like my wife and I who just say, I want a really good cake. I like dessert. And I heard from my friends that this place has good cake. And so you go to that place and you don't expect to be discriminated against. You don't expect to be violated.
I don't agree with that. When you go in there and you say, I want a gay cake, a homosexual cake.
What is
You are,
homosexual cake?
because it's
Because
for
I
a
think
homosexual couple,
if
right?
you and I eat the same cake, my cake isn't homosexual because I'm gay. Just like if we order pizza and you take a slice and I take a slice, it's not a gay pizza.
But why would you pass up a gay bakery to go to a Christian bakery that you know does not want to service you? When you say wife and you being a woman, that doesn't sound, I mean, I understand that you like that and you accept it, but it doesn't sound strange to you to say me and my wife and you are a female?
No, it feels great. It feels great to find a person who loves me for who I am, who supports me, who makes me laugh, who does the laundry when I don't do the laundry. That feels really, really awesome to have a partner in life who I know I can always depend on. Makes me happy.
Does it bother you that the two of you can't have children together?
I think it's inaccurate to say as two women we can't have children. We can have children.
But you can't, not together. You
But,
can't get
but
in
again,
bed
my
with-
heterosexual friends can't have
I
children
know,
together
but that's
either.
an abnormal situation. Normally, a man and a woman can have a baby, but due to some type of defect, you do find cases where a woman might not be able to have children, have a baby, or a man can't make it. But there's no way that you and another woman can get in bed and make a baby. Do you ever wonder, well, if God made me a homosexual and he intended for me to be with another woman, knowing that I would want a family, why did he make it possible for me to lay down with another woman and make a baby? Have you ever thought about that?
I believe God has created all of us. So if God created the people who figured out how to help my heterosexual friends who very much want children, and the fact that he created a way for them to do that, that we as a world, as a people have figured out how to operate in those situations, it leads me to believe that it is possible. So it doesn't feel weird, and you can
don't
ask
believe
me
that-
4 different ways, but
Do
I'm
you
not.
believe-
I'm never gonna think it's weird because
Do-
it's who I am.
Do you believe that children need the influence of a father and a mother?
I think children need the influence of people who love them and care about them.
How about a father and a mother? Do you believe that they need that influence of a father and a mother?
I have had too many friends who have been raised by single parents. One, as a military kid, where I have had friends and I have had people in my community whose parents have died serving our country. I have had too many people who I know and who I respect and who I love who have been raised by single parents, dads or moms, to believe that it is impossible to raise a brilliant, loving, mature child.
Give me a yes or no to the question. Do you believe that the
I just
children,
did.
boys and girls, need the influence of their father and mother?
I just answered your question. I'm sorry if you didn't understand
Yeah,
it.
I missed it. I'm black and slow.
So-
do they need the influence of a father and a mother?
I think it is my belief that children need the influence of people who love them, care about them,
Is
and
that a
support
no
them.
to my question?
I'm sorry I answered your question.
As a Christian, do you believe in sin?
I do believe in sin, yeah.
And what is sin?
For me, the easiest way to explain it, and especially for non-Christians, is I try to lead a life where I don't treat people differently than I want to be treated.
So, what is sin?
I'm sorry that we're missing each other, but I feel like I answered that question.
To treat people the way you like to be treated?
I feel like the cardinal sin is not treating other people well. as
So
if you
when
wanna be
radical
treated.
homosexuals impose on Christians who don't want to participate in their lifestyle, is that a sin?
I don't know what a radical homosexual is. And
The ones who are trying to get the laws changed. For example, there's an Oregon couple fined $135,000. Colorado's Supreme Court refused to hear another baker's appeal. So I want to know from you, should the court have the power to force bakers to make same-sex wedding cakes? And is that a sin to force them to do it?
So I think that the court has the power to enforce the law, and I think the Colorado court deciding not to hear the case was a victory for equality and a victory for anyone who doesn't believe in discrimination.
So let's go back to sin. What is sin? Tell me again, what is sin? Is there any other sin besides treating each other the way we would like to be treated?
I mean, what do you think?
I say, yeah, a whole bunch of them are.
Like what?
Two men or two women acting as though there's a man and a woman. God is not for that. He didn't create that sin, and He would want you to overcome it. That's why Christ came, so that we could overcome the, sin.
But
Sins.
I don't know all gay people, but I feel like it's not about pretending like one of you is a man and one of you is a woman. It's just being who you are and being open to love and being loved.
So as a Christian, you don't know what sin is. That's the only sin that you know, is to treat each other differently than you would like to be treated.
No,
Are there any other sins?
I didn't say that was the only sin.
Give me the example of some more.
What I said in response to your question is it a sin to force people to bake a cake that they don't want to bake because of their religion? My response to that question was that I think that what courts are supposed to do, understanding the legal system, courts are supposed to,
I know, but let's go back to sin. As a Christian, give me other examples, a couple other examples of sin.
I'm not sure.
You're not sure what sin is?
I'm not sure.
Transgender people are now in the mix. And they want, if a man feel like a woman, he want to go into the woman's bathroom. If a woman feel like a man, they want to be able to go into the men's bathroom. Is that right? Should that be allowed?
So I think a couple thoughts about what you said. I don't think that transgender people are now in the mix. I think transgender people have always been around. I think they've been around throughout history. And I think the reality is people want to pass a law saying, oh, hey, like, we need to stop people from going into the bathroom that we're determining they shouldn't be in. But the reality is you're already using the men's bathroom with people who are transgender, just like people are already using women's bathrooms with people who are transgender. So is it right? I think that people should be able to use the bathroom that they want to use.
So you're saying, yes, if a man decides that he feels like a woman, he's at a football game, had a couple beers, and he said, you know what, I'm going into the ladies' bathroom. I feel like a woman right now. He should be able to go into that bathroom. He has a right.
I don't want to be combative, but I'm not going to answer questions that describe people in ways in which they're not. And somebody who is transgender is not just someone who feels like a woman on a particular day because they've had a few beers. I think that's disrespectful to transgender people. And so I'm not going to describe people in a way that is not accurate because I wouldn't want people to describe me.
So let's say that you have men who feel like women and they're dressing in women's clothing. They have identified as a transgender, full-fledged person. Should they be allowed to go into the bathroom of choice?
If I am a person who is transgender and I feel more comfortable and I feel more safe using whichever bathroom, then I should be able to use that bathroom.
And so the straight person doesn't have a choice in that, or say so. If they don't want that because they feel imposed upon, or let's say that my daughter is going into the women's bathroom, but here is a transgender man who feels like a woman going into that same bathroom, do I have a right to say, no, this is not going to happen for the protection and the privacy of my daughter?
Your daughter has already used
no,
the
that's
bathroom
not the question. That's
with
not the
question.
Transgender. Answer that question.
Should
that be allowed if I'm against that for my daughter?
Your daughter, and the thing is, in order for me to answer questions, you can't interrupt me. And I know that's been tough for you throughout this, but like I can't answer your questions if you interrupt me when I'm answering them. I don't know what your daughter does in the bathroom, but when I go to the bathroom, I have to pee or something else. And so I go into the bathroom, I go into the stall, I shut the door. And so what I'm doing in the bathroom isn't imposing on anyone else. It's taking care of my bodily function.
If it's a man who dressed like a woman and my daughter is in that bathroom, this man, he may have in his own mind think that he's a woman when in reality he's still a man. I have a right to say, no, I'm not going to allow this to happen. And the transgender person doesn't have a right to impose on that. Because that's what the radical movement, homosexual movement is about, is freedom, right? And non-discrimination.
For the third time, I don't know what a radical homosexual is.
Should transgender people be fighting for transgenders bathrooms rather than imposing on straight people.
Should black people be fighting for black bathrooms?
It's not the same thing.
But
it's a put down to associate being black with homosexuality.
Well,
it's a disgrace to black people who have died, black and whites who fought for the freedom of black Americans based on skin color.
It's a
put down to do that.
One of the great African American, one of my great role models, Audre Lorde, said something to the impact of there's no such thing as single issue struggles because we're not single issue people.
It's not a sin to be black, but it is a sin to be a homosexual because you can overcome homosexuality, but you cannot overcome being black. Just ask Michael Jackson; he never was able to overcome.
I don't think that most people are actually trying to overcome their homosexuality. And I think if we're actually looking at what these laws do, they are about so much more than bathrooms. It's about denying people public access. It's about jobs. It's about employment discrimination. It's about
none of that is true.
It is true.
What it is, in reality, homosexual people, especially the radical ones, are not comfortable with being homosexuals, and they don't want anything or anybody around them to remind them that they're wrong. And so that's why they're trying to impose themselves on Christian bakers and same bathroom, because they can't handle being wrong.
Are you homosexual?
No, but all sin create conflict.
But hold on, but if you're not homosexual, then you can't speak for a group of people.
I know what sin does for you. It creates conflict.
But you can't. I feel great being gay.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I feel fantastic.
You really don't.
I feel fantastic. I've had a smile on my face the whole time. I might be happier than you. I'm young. I'm successful. I own a home. I found somebody I love. I have a great degree. I feel great. I've in no way. I have not felt like I need to overcome anything.
The one thing I can absolutely guarantee you, with all the successes that you've been able to gain, when you're alone by yourself, when no one is around to validate you, you're not being praised for your successes, reality kicks in, and you have conflict about being a homosexual. You're not happy with it. I don't care what you say. I know for a fact that that happens.
I
want to ask you about this.
I'm sorry to disappoint you.
No, you're not disappointing me.
I absolutely don't. I strive to be the person that I want to be a good person, to treat other people well, and to do things that help other people. I could go be a lawyer and make thousands of dollars.
Because the whole movement is about imposing on heterosexual people.
But that's not true.
It is.
And it is not only is it homophobic, but it is sexist for you as a man to tell me as a woman that I am not
falling for that. Don't go there with me.
That's not going to work. That I'm not.